control. This can lead to substance abuse, gambling, substance abuse, gambling, violent crimes, etc. Higher self-control through religion can reduce crimes, alcoholism, drug use, which harm society. This is why I urge a ballot in the side of the affirmative.
All right. Is my partner ready?
That was beautiful.
And are my opponents ready?
Totally.
Okay, then I will begin on my first word. Hold on, sorry, my timer is being stupid. Okay, I will start right now. My partner and I stand firmly on the negative side of the following resolution, resolved on balance, society's benefit from religious belief and practice. We have definitions on hand and will provide them if necessary. Contention 1, discrimination. When analyzing the societal benefits of religious beliefs and practices, the discrimination created cannot be ignored. From a report by the American Civil Liberties Union, quote, with increasing frequency, we are seeing individuals and institutions claiming a right to discriminate by refusing to provide services to women and LGBT people based on religious objections, end quote. Some legally documented examples of this phenomenon include Craig and Mullins versus Masterpiece Cake Shop, State versus Arlene's Flowers Incorporated, Elaine Photography LLC versus Wilcock, and Christian Charities versus DCFS, to name just a few. The last case, Christian Charities versus DCFS, is especially jarring since it's not just a private withholding of services on the basis of race, gender, or sexuality, but a system of discrimination rooted in government and public services, all fueled by religious belief and practices. According to the American Civil Liberties Union, quote, the case involves whether a religious organization can demand government contracts to provide child welfare services while refusing to comply with LGBTQ non-discrimination requirements, end quote. Then the then current system would only allow married couples to foster or adopt children in Illinois. But, quote, because the case predated the Illinois statute that recognizes that everyone, including same-sex couples, have the freedom to marry, the charity's policy intentionally classified all same-sex couples as, quote, unqualified to provide loving homes for children. In the course of this Illinois litigation, child welfare experts offered testimony that allowing this form of discrimination harmed everyone, and it deprived Illinois foster children of the care of loving families, and it discriminated against unmarried couples, especially those in civil unions, and especially same-sex couples who are fully qualified to act as foster or adopted parents, end quote. Another example of religiously fueled discrimination is the 1979 LDS trial of Sonia Johnson after she participated in the Utah activism to amend the Equal Rights Amendment to the Constitution. From the Washington Post's digital archives, a 1979 article reports on Johnson's experience and the movement she was part of, labeled, quote, Meet Mormons for the ERA, end quote, which the church institution greatly opposed under the guide that God did not believe in the equal rights under the law for men and women. This is another example of religious beliefs leading to the furthering of discrimination. The ERA was never amended to the Constitution despite its simple wording, and religious groups campaigning and government lobbying played a large part. Moving on to contention 2, government lobbying. Previous studies have analyzed the effects of afterlife incentives on religious behavior. Ozzie and Ehrberg were the first to propose a theoretical model of afterlife religious capital. They analyzed the determinants of the individual's participation in religious activities, and among other results, found afterlife beliefs to be a major determinant of church attendance. Blomberg developed a model where financial religious contributions are motivated by both current consumption and afterlife considerations. She showed that afterlife considerations play an important role in explaining those financial contributions. Pine studies the relationship between religiosity and the fear of death. He found that individuals who place a higher probability in the existence of an afterlife will rationally invest more in religious capital, end quote. Essentially, fear is used to incentivize good moral action, and the definition of what is considered to be good is based on scripture or the words of those who profit from financial religious contribution. This leads into government lobbying. By incentivizing followers, it creates financial profits for religious corporations, whether that be the institution of a church or religiously affiliated company or corporation. These organizations and corporations then use this money to lobby governments, which often perpetuates issues such as that discussed in contention 1, discrimination. Some examples include the LDS churches lobbying against the Equal Rights Amendment and Equality Act, but government lobbying by religious organizations is not limited to certain religions. In fact, according to the Pew Research Center, the distribution is fairly equal. Quote, the number of organizations engaged in religious lobbying or religion-related advocacy in Washington, D.C. has increased roughly fivefold in the past 4 decades, from fewer than 40 in 1970 to more than 200 today. These groups spend at least $350 million a year on influence in national public policy. And this report is based on the examination of the website's mission statements, tax documents, and other public records of religious advocacy groups, end quote. Previous studies indicate that lobbying in general has increased rapidly in recent decades, but the growth in the number of religion-related advocacy organizations appears to have kept pace with or even exceeded the growth in some of these other common types of advocacy organizations. Efforts by religious groups to influence U.S. public policy are a multi-million-dollar endeavor, with combined annual expenditures conservatively estimated at the $350 million, according to the Pew Research Center. More than one-third of the groups reported annual advocacy expenditures between $1 million and $5 million per year, while about 1 in 10 reported spending more than $5 million a year. And it is for these reasons that we urge a negative affirmation. Thank you.
Okay, cross-ex, right?
Yeah, do you guys stand open for cross-examination?
Yeah, and then as first speaker, do you guys want first question?
Yes.
Yeah, we do get first question, and then it goes you, and then us, and then you. And then some people will interrupt and get 2 questions, and if you do that, I'll hit you.
Okay, sounds good. You might be hitting me.
I'll find your house.
Okay.
Bring the car.
Okay.
I'll begin on your guys' first word.
Yeah, you go, Shay.
Okay. So you said in your just running over your case really quick, your first contention is about discrimination, and your second contention is about government lobbying. So, can you please explain to me how discrimination relates to beliefs and practices?
Yeah, so like we talked about with like our example of the LDS church and the multiple other examples that we didn't fully read out, but we mentioned, these religious beliefs and these religious practices are leading to the belief that people are not equal. So like we brought up with the LDS example, under the guide of God, the LDS church believed that men and women were not equal, which is where the advocacy against the Equal Rights Amendment came from, and that's why it's actually rooted in these religious beliefs and practices. So
Really
if I'm going, actually, can I ask a question?
Yeah, of course.
So if I'm going to your first contention, you talked about how religion has the opportunity to save, but if religion has such the opportunity to be so misused and so heavily detrimental to society, how can this be seen as something that's so beneficial?
So basically how we explained in our first contention is studies have actually shown that people who do follow religion are able to have self-control more. And so crime rates have reduced, drug use has reduced, alcohol has reduced. And you can see through this, when people stop doing these horrible things to excess, that society benefits in whole because crime won't increase, taxes won't be used for these prisons that are being overpopulated. You can just see throughout this entire contention that even delinquency, it can be shown that delinquents who commit crimes when they are young, a lot of them follow through to adulthood. And so with religion helping reduce delinquency, this will help society in general. May I have a question now? What is your definition of practices?
Going to our case, sorry about that. Our definition of practice is the actual application or use of an idea, belief, or method as opposed to theories relating to it. Okay, can I ask a question?
Yes.
So going back to your first contention, you also talked about how religion has the ability to save, but does religion have the ability to be traumatic?
So can you explain what you mean on save and also what you mean on traumatic?
Yeah, so what you talked about with like crime rates dropping, I assume that means that people who have committed these crimes are now falling into religion. And so what I'm asking is, if religion has somewhat of an ability to save, doesn't it have more of an ability to tear down, destroy, and harm everybody in its path, especially those that don't practice?
So actually, no, it does not, specifically because we need to look at the words on balance, and we can look at that through the majority. As we can see, it benefits society as a whole, not just harming specific groups. And we can see that the trauma that is caused through religion only harms tiny specific groups. And so if you look at on balance, we're looking at the majority of society. And so we can see through the majority of society that it actually does benefit. Okay. And that is time.
How long did you guys do for cross-ex?
3 minutes.
Oh, okay. My timer's way off, but yes. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. I will be using some running prep time. I'm not sure how much, but I will notify how much I have used after. And I will begin starting now. So that is all the time I will need, and I had 1 minute and 45 seconds. And just to clarify, this is 4 minutes, 5 minutes.
Wait, what are the times?
I thought it was, so it's
Can we go through the
5
times?
It's 4
Okay,
minutes.
so for the first 5 minutes is your main speech. Then it's 3 minutes of cross-ex, and this speech is 4.
Oh.
And then it's 3 minutes cross-ex, and then it's 3 minutes, 3 minutes.
Oh, I have it written down wrong then. My bad. Anyways.
No worries.
Okay. My opponent seems to have a clear understanding of how a BQ debate runs.
So, are my opponents ready? And is my partner ready as well?
Yeah, so ready.
Okay, I will begin starting now. There is no bad religion. There are only bad people. We stated this in the beginning of our case. It was from Morgan Freeman. And this is what we need to talk about in this case. Not that religion's bad, but these people are bad. Looking at my opponent's first contention, they talk about discrimination. And as I previously said, there are bad people in every single group. There are going to be bad people in government, in religion, in schools, every single place there will be bad people. And that those people can affect how society runs. But that does not mean religion itself is bad. There are not verses that specifically tell people to discriminate against colors, to discriminate against the LGBTQ. There are verses that people use and twist around to manipulate these words, such as the verse saying that man should not lay with man. This is actually not true. The original verse was man should not lay with boy, talking about pedophilia, not about sexuality. And so people have used these verses and twisted them to use them for their own thoughts. But this is not actually religion itself. This is just how people use it. And again, as I previously stated, there are going to be bad people in every single thing. That does not mean that religion itself is bad, just that those people are bad. And instead of looking at religion saying it harms society in general, we need to be looking at those people, saying these people are using something and twisting around to harm society. This is not the same thing at all. We can actually see with religion, throughout every single religion, they have common factors such as judgment. And every single religion, we can look at things saying, do not judge other people and love other people. This isn't every religion. It's talking about karma, heaven. My opponents have previously stated that people only go to church because of fear. and they're only doing good things because of fear, but they're still doing good things. Even though there is a subconscious fear about them going to hell or being reincarnated into something bad, they're still doing what's best for society. And we need to look at what religion is doing best for society. And we can look at that through the side of the affirmation. It has helped lowering crime rates, lowering drug use, lowering alcoholism. That is why it is helping society in general. And now moving on to my opponent's second contention as well, looking at how government's lobbying religion affects government's lobbying and things such as this. But again, as I previously said, there are going to be bad people in every single thing. This does not mean the thing itself is bad. We need to look at beliefs and practices. Practices such as praying help self-control more. That does not mean some people claim that they're part of this religion, but they're really not. They're using this religion as a cover. And this is what my opponents are referring to. They're referring to people who are discriminating and horrible, and they're using religion as a cover. This isn't religion itself. We need to be looking at religion itself and religious beliefs and practices themselves, not using it as a cover for other things. So as I previously said throughout this entire speech, religion is not bad. It helps benefit society. It helps lower crime and drug use, and that benefits society in general. We can look at when crime rates are lower, people are happier in general. People don't need to fear going outside. Taxes aren't used for overpopulated prisons. We need to look at society as a whole and not specific groups, looking at the majority of society and not specific groups who are using it for bad or who are being discriminated against. Being discriminated against is a horrible, horrible thing and should never happen. But it's not through religion. It's through bad people. That is why my opponent and I urge a ballot on that of the affirmation. Thank you.
You mean your partner and I, not opponent?
Did I not say partner?
No, you said opponent.
My partner and I urge ballot on that of the affirmation. Thank you.
Also, I forgot to tell y'all this. When you're saying like my opponent, don't say my opponent, say my opponent's case. Yeah. Also,
Wait,
look at
repeat.
Shade that. Just say my opponent's case.
Okay, sorry.
Also, look at you dying. I'm so proud.
Is my are my opponents ready? Okay, is my partner ready? All right, I will begin time now. First of all, my opponent quoted a quote saying that there are no bad religions, only bad people. And that may be true, but bad people fund bad religions and inherently fund government lobbying. Even if the religion isn't inherently negative, it becomes negative when the bad people fund it and participate in lobbying to reduce equality. Crime and religion. My opponent stated that religion is a positive benefit because it prevents a greater number of people from being incarcerated or from committing crimes, especially violent crimes. This is untrue. On average, according to the Pew Research Center, chaplains surveyed and said that Christians as a whole make up about 2/3 of the inmate population in the facilities where they work, over half of the inmates. Protestants are seen on average as composing about 51%, Catholics 15%, and other Christian groups less than 2%. That's only people who are part of the Christian denomination and not even considering other religions. So the idea that religious belief helps to prevent crime and criminal activity is blatantly untrue. Clearly, criminals are disproportionately religious versus atheistic beliefs, and the idea that religion is needed to fund morals is also incorrect. So then as far as the protection against suicide and the idea that it helps save lives, especially amongst teenagers and people with mental health issues, although religion is reported to be protective against suicide, the empirical evidence is inconsistent. Research has complicated the fact that there are many dimensions to religion: affiliation, participation, doctrine, and suicide includes ideation, attempt, completion. We systemically reviewed the literature on religion and suicide over the last 10 years, and identified that specific dimensions of religion are associated with specific aspects of suicide. Religious affiliation does not necessarily protect against suicidal ideation, and it most of the time depends much more on culture, whether or not suicidal ideation will be mitigated through mental health help and so on and so forth. And religion doesn't have much of an impact because one religion can be practiced in many different ways depending on what part of the world you may or may not be living in. And then as far as the idea that religion benefits more people than it does harm, and in general produces more harm than good. The Guardian conducted a survey on the greater population of several countries, and found that over half of people believe religion does more harm than good. And clearly, for people to hold these beliefs, something must have happened. People must have been harmed by these religions to have experienced things in their own life that show them that religion is more harmful than it is beneficial to society. So it definitely is a disproportionate perspective. The Bible, my opponent also said the Bible isn't actually discriminatory, and that passages are just extrapolated to mean whatever a given person may want them to mean, and that's entirely untrue. I mean, there are passages such as in Genesis of the Bible that justify slavery, and fear not being a bad thing is untrue, because indulgences during the Protestant Reformation, for example, were just a way to gain economic incentive, and that's time.
You were amazing, Joe.
Oh, thanks.
So sorry, excuse me. As first speaker, we get first question.
Mhm.
And just to clarify, 3 minutes, correct?
Yes.
Excuse me. Okay. Is my partner ready?
Yes.
And are my opponents ready?
Yeah.
I'll begin starting now. So as you guys, as my opponents, excuse me, have previously stated, they said, you guys said that it does not stop you stated a statistic that said people are religious in prison, correct?
It's a statistic from the Pew Research Center, data showing that people are disproportionately generally religious in criminal spaces, I guess, in such as federal and state level prisons, showing.
So how many people are religious in the entire world? Do you have a percentage?
No, I could pull one up.
I have a percentage for you if you would like that. It's going to be 85%. So would you not say that that is the majority of people in the world that are going to be religious?
Well, actually, can I counter that with a question? Can we
Yes.
argue that all religions are good? Because
I do not.
I'm asking you.
I have to look into every single thing. That is not what this is asking. This is asking whether or not religion benefits society.
Okay,
not
so
whether
then
religion
can I
itself is
ask another question?
Yes.
Okay, so going to what you said about how bad people exist in all groups of society, and because of that, we should allow religion to continue to exist because it so-called has these benefits. But if we're giving people more of an opportunity to manipulate, harm, and hinder other people's lives, and giving more opportunity for people to be discriminated against, how can something be seen as beneficial to all of society if all of society is being significantly more degraded and harmed by this?
So answering your question to that, religion is just a cover. People are going to use any single thing. So even if we get rid of religion, these bad people are still going to find a way to justify what they are doing.
Can you prove that?
Can you prove that they will not?
I'm asking you simply because you're making baseless claims, and so I'm asking you if you have the ability to prove that people will move on to something else if they don't have religion.
It's common sense. If you look at any single thing in history, people use other things to justify. So you can look at the Nazis, for example. The Nazis were not actually Christians, but they used Christianity to cover what they were doing. They weren't Christians, and that is just a cover. If the Nazis did not claim to be Christians, they would have found another thing. It is now my question, if I may ask. So you talked about how there is a verse that talks about slavery. Can you give me that exact verse?
Yeah, here, hold on. Ooh, we have 10 minutes of the meeting, by the way, guys. Okay. So according to, it is a passage from Genesis, but let me just pull it up. Really
I'll just move on to a different question really quick.
Actually, then can we just ask a question?
Yes.
Okay. Joe, you had your.
Oh yeah, I did really quickly. So you stated from your statistic, 85% of the world is religious, correct?
Yes.
So under that assumption, if religion does prevent people from becoming criminals, and then why is it that such a large population of the world are in prison and that those people are disproportionately religious? Wouldn't it?
Can you go ahead and answer that question, please?
Yes, I will. So basically, this contention is not talking about that it stops people from committing crimes. What it is talking about is it helps reduce this. People are still going to commit crimes even if they are religious. It is not saying religion is going to completely stop this. It's just going to say it's going to minimize it. So saying that it's stopping people from being bad at all, that's just not true at all. What we are saying in this is if people do look towards religion and do look, even if it is the fear of things of going to hell or being reincarnated into something bad, they're going to look at this and say, maybe I shouldn't steal from the store. Maybe I shouldn't kill somebody. Maybe I shouldn't hurt somebody. That is what we are looking at instead of saying, oh, just because people follow a religion, they're never going to do anything bad. That is not what is going on.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
What is the next
I'm-
section, guys?
So after this, it's going to be 3
Rebuttal.
minutes of AF and yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna take a minute prep.
Yeah, and Elizabeth, you want to take some prep too?
In a minute.
Okay, well, I'll be taking a minute prep. Thank you.
Let's
very
just take some prep right now.
Oh no, we can't.
Bye.
Okay, Lord, have mercy. Don't judge me. Okay, we're doing this for that school and shit. Don't look at my names. Either child, you sit there. Okay. Okay. Is my partner ready? Can I get like a yeah or like a yas queen? I can't see you right now, Shay. Yeah, you are.
Can you hear me?
Okay, yeah, I can. You're ready?
Yeah, I'm all good.
Are the two people that we're losing against ready? Our opponents, I'm sorry, our opponents. Yeah, you guys are ready? Yeah? Yeah, okay. Then, oh, can you, y'all, one of y'all give me hand signals. Then I will begin now. I'd first like to bring up the opponent, or the attacks that the opponents have put on our case. And then I'd like to justifiably say why our opponent's first contention falls, the on balance. To begin, our case specifically states that religious beliefs and practices can help rehabilitate and help people who are doing these unlawful and actions that may harm them, that are delinquent. It can help them it can help them get out of these situations and find not only better hope in themselves, but also help them face their entire life. Let me see. Okay, oh God. Our case also specifically focuses on how it can help children that face delinquency in their life, because as we all know, children are the future of our society, and if you don't have children that are based off of a good moral set of beliefs, and children that are somewhat reasonable and somewhat thinking, then our society, the future people of our society, aren't exactly, gonna end up running the society well. Secondly, I'd like to mainly bring up my opponent's case. They specifically talk about LGBTQIA plus peoples and women as a whole. And I'd like to first say, by Point Park University did a study on how many people are LGBTQ identifying in the United States. And they found that only 3.8% of people on the United States are LGBTQIA plus identifying, meaning that statistically, on balance, there are less LGBTQIA plus people in this society than there are straight and hetero people. Therefore, on balance, the LGBTQ people are the minority in the society. And then Yale Medical found that only 16% of LGBTQ people globally exist. therefore that the statement that LGBTQI plus people outweigh straight and cis identifying people is completely flawed. And then World Data, who keeps track of the death rates and the rates of who identify as women and who identify as men, only found that 49.6% of women are, for their gender identity, 49.6% of women exist on the planet, meaning that 0.4% difference still means the fact that men are the majority on this planet. Whether that's a good or a bad thing, it still means that discrimination against LGBTQI plus people and women on this planet is a minority as a whole, and that on balance, the laws that affect LGBTQI plus people don't affect the whole society, and therefore it doesn't really change that much as a society. And this is coming from someone who is non-binary and a gay man, and I could say that therefore I'm definitely in the minority, and that these laws that affect me definitely don't affect straight and cis people. And if what specifically happens to me doesn't change the whole society, then on balance, those religious beliefs, which aren't actually derived from religious beliefs and are derived from the person who acts upon them. Yeah, this is why you should vote on the affirmation and not let sick people debate, because sick people are tired and I'm dying right now.
All right, I will be taking. Oh, you're not on here. Okay. Anyways, I'll be taking a little bit of running prompt. Okay. All right, that was 55 seconds. And Joe, if you don't put your freaking phone on mute. Okay. Anyways, are my opponents ready? Okay, is my partner ready? All right, then in that case, I will begin. Oops, sorry. Okay, let me timer up. All right, I will begin on my first word. So I'm going to be going over the attacks that were made by my opponent on our case. Their first attack being on our discrimination contention, which talks about how they're bad people in all groups. However, what I would like to bring up is the fact that these people are using religion and they're practicing it in the ways to manipulate it to become bad. So what I want to talk about with this is like the example that we brought up in our case with the LDS Church and how it discriminated against a woman who was supporting the Equal Rights Amendment Act. And even though she was supporting it, she was a Mormon herself. So her own religious party was persecuting her because they believed under the guide of God that men and women were not created equally. So we can see that this is directly from the religious belief itself. Also going to this, we have another example in our case, which is from the Masterpiece Cake Shop Ltd versus the Colorado Civil Rights Commission. So what we can see is that in July of 2012, Charlie Craig and David Mullins went to Masterpiece Cake Shop in Lakewood, Colorado, and requested that its owner, Jack C. Phillips, design and create a cake for their wedding. However, Phillips declined to do so on the grounds that he did not create wedding cakes for the same-sex wedding because of his religious beliefs. Phillips believing that decorating cakes is a form of art through which he can honor God, and that it would displease God to create cakes for the same-sex marriage. So what we can see is that because of this person's beliefs, he would not create a cake for a same-sex couple, strictly because he felt that this would not be a way to honor God, and this is something that God would frown upon him on. So we can see that this is directly from the religious belief.